Here's a documentary that I've heard about for quite a while now, and I didn't realize had come out. This is a film entitled Boiled Angels, The Trial of Mike Diana. Sounds a little gross. It is a little gross, but it's also kind of important in many ways. This is a film directed by director Frank Henenlotter, who you might know from Basket Case or Frankenhooker or Bad Biology or Brain Damage or any number of things. He also did a great documentary called That's Sexploitation. This was a documentary from just a year or two ago, and it's about Mike Diana was this young cartoonist in Florida who drew this zine. If you don't know what a zine is, it was basically, this was a thing for a while in the 90s and beyond. Self-published magazines or comics or whatever that were done very much on the cheap. They were usually just Xeroxed, folded in half, stapled, and sold like at record stores or through the mail. Mike Diana did this zine called Boiled Angels, and it was this really kind of extreme comic book that was about social ills and bizarre stuff and really explicit and really edgy and really dark and grim and gross. And he was arrested for that. This film examines how in the America of anybody's recent memory, you could be arrested and go to jail for drawing something in your house. The film interviews Mike Diana and a lot of other people in the comics world and people who were in zines and other things about how this impacted the comic world, how this impacted the notion of free speech, and a lot of footage of the trial. It takes you pretty much linearly how this went with commentary, and I just thought it was fascinating. This is something I'd never heard about at the time. I didn't know about until this documentary started being discussed. This is something I saw on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, it's free on Prime. I believe it's also available physically currently. And it's funny and it's outraging, depending on your mindset. Because yes, what Mike Diana drew was gross and repulsive, but he was selling it to people who asked for it. It was being treated by these people in this Florida town as a menace to society, and he's a sick individual, and it's going to encourage people to, commit all kinds of heinous acts against farm animals and God and trees and Smurfs, and it's just interesting. It's interesting to know that there are still people out there like the people depicted in this documentary who are railing against this guy drawing stuff in his parents' bedroom. And shocking to see the penalty he received in court for drawing stuff and selling it to people who asked for it. So the documentary is about an hour and a half. I thought it was fascinating. It's really well put together. Henenlotter knows how to make a film that moves along. He has interesting interviews with interesting people, a lot of comic artists and historians, and it was really good. Now, yes, the content is kind of extreme. I mean, they're drawings, but what the drawings depict are about as crude as you can get. And some of them are sort of animated and acted out with voiceover. So it's certainly R-rated or NC-17 rated or whatever they call ratings, mature, unrated these days. But I think if you're into the zine scene or that whole thing, sort of underground or edgy culture in comics, or just freedom of expression in this great nation of ours, I think Boiled Angels is absolutely worth a look. If you're somebody who's into comics, it's a fascinating corner of comics you might not know. And narrated by Jello Biafra, which is interesting, from the Dead Kennedys. I didn't love his narration, to be honest. It seemed like he was sort of, I don't know, maybe that's how Jello Biafra is. It seemed like he wasn't taking it seriously. He was sort of, I don't know, his tone bothered me a little bit. Not that it needed to be deathly serious, because the documentary, as well as it's about a serious matter, it's fairly light in tone for what it is. At any rate, available on Amazon Prime and or physical media, Boiled Angels, The Trial of Mike Diana.